The first time my stepdaughter looked at me with something other than hatred. She was sitting on my kitchen floor, crying so hard she couldn't breathe. She was 26 years old. She had just discovered the truth about her mother, a truth I had carried in silence for almost a decade. A truth I had sworn I would never tell her, no matter how much her cruelty toward me made me want to. But the truth has a way of finding the light. It always does. I remember kneeling beside her on that cold tile floor, unsure whether to touch her, unsure whether she would push me away like she had 100 times before. Her whole body shook with sobs, her hands pressed against her face, her shoulders curled inward like she was trying to disappear. "I'm sorry," she kept saying over and over. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know. And I, the woman she had hated, blamed, resented for 8 long years. I wrapped my arms around her and held her the way I had always wanted to. The way her mother should have. But let me take you back. Let me show you where this story truly begins, not with the crying, not with the revelation, but with the day I fell in love with a man who came with a child. His name was Robert. I met him at a bookstore, of all places. One of those small independent shops that smelled like old paper and coffee, where people browsed in comfortable silence and time seemed to move slower than the outside world. I was reaching for a novel on the top shelf, something I couldn't quite grasp, when a hand appeared above mine and pulled it down. "Here you go," he said, handing it to me with a smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes. He was tall and broad-shouldered, with graying hair at his temples and a warmth in his expression that made me feel instantly at ease. We ended up talking for over an hour, standing between the shelves, trading book recommendations and stories about our lives. He told me he was divorced, that he had an 18-year-old daughter named Lily who was about to start college, that his marriage had ended 5 years earlier, and he'd spent the time since focused on being a good father. I told him I had never been married, that I was 42 and had mostly given up on finding someone, that I worked as a librarian and lived alone in a small house with too many books and not enough people. By the end of that conversation, I knew I wanted to see him again. And I did. We dated for almost 2 years before we got married. Robert was careful about introducing me to Lily. He wanted to make sure our relationship was solid before he brought his daughter into it. He wanted to protect her, he said. She had already been through so much. I understood. I respected his caution. And when I finally met Lily, I was determined to make a good impression. She was beautiful, tall like her father, with long, dark hair and sharp, intelligent eyes. She was home from college for the summer, and Robert had arranged a dinner at his house so we could all get to know each other. I brought flowers. I helped with the cooking. I asked her about her classes, her friends, her plans for the future. She answered in monosyllables. Not rude exactly, just distant, guarded, like she was assessing me from behind a wall, deciding whether I was a threat. I told myself it was normal. Of course she would be wary of her father's new girlfriend. Of course she would need time to warm up. But the warming never came. Robert and I got married the following spring. It was a small ceremony, just family and close friends, in a garden outside the city. I wore a simple ivory dress, and Robert cried when he saw me walking toward him. It was the happiest day of my life. Lily attended, but she didn't smile. She sat in the front row with her arms crossed, her expression blank. When the ceremony ended and everyone gathered for photos, she stood at the edge of the group, barely visible in the frame. I tried not to let it bother me. I told myself she just needed more time. She was 20 years old now, an adult, and the adjustment of seeing her father remarry was understandably difficult. But as the months passed, I began to realize that time wasn't the issue. Lily didn't just need to adjust to me. She hated me. It started with small things. A comment here, a look there. The way she would walk into a room and greet her father warmly, then barely acknowledge my presence. The way she would decline my invitations to lunch or shopping, always with an excuse that felt just thin enough to be a lie. Robert noticed, but he made excuses for her. "She's still processing the divorce," he said. She's protective of me, just give her time. So I gave her time, months of it, then years. But nothing changed. If anything, it got worse. By the time Lily was 23, she had stopped pretending altogether. She would come to visit her father and ignore me completely. She would make plans with him, dinners, trips, holidays, and pointedly leave me out. When I tried to join conversations, she would cut me off or change the subject. And then there were the comments. Little barbs, delivered with a smile, designed to wound without leaving visible marks. That's a nice dress, Alina. It must have been expensive. I guess Dad's money has to go somewhere. You're redecorating the living room again. My mother always said people who change their surroundings constantly are trying to escape themselves. I'm surprised you're still here, honestly. Dad's last relationship didn't last this long. Each one landed like a slap. Each one left me feeling smaller, less welcome in my own home. But I never fought back. I never snapped. I never gave her the satisfaction of seeing how much she hurt me. Because I knew something she didn't. I knew why she hated me so much. And it had nothing to do with me at all. The reason Lily hated me had a name. Monica. Her mother. I never met Monica in person, but I knew her presence like you know a shadow that follows you everywhere. She was in every bitter word Lily spoke, in every cold glance, in every calculated cruelty disguised as casual conversation. Monica and Robert had been married for 15 years before things fell apart. From what Robert told me, carefully, reluctantly, in pieces over many late-night conversations, their marriage had been troubled from the start. Monica was charming, beautiful, the kind of woman who commanded attention when she walked into a room. But beneath the surface, she was controlling, manipulative, and deeply insecure. She needed to be the center of Robert's world, and when Lily was born, she struggled to share that spotlight with her own daughter. The divorce had been ugly. Monica had fought for everything: the house, the savings, full custody of Lily. She had painted Robert as an absent father, a cold husband, a man who cared more about his career than his family. None of it was true, but truth doesn't always matter in a courtroom. In the end, Robert had walked away with limited custody and a heart full of guilt. He saw Lily every other weekend and on holidays, but Monica controlled the narrative. She told Lily stories, carefully crafted stories, that painted her father as the villain and herself as the victim. By the time I came into the picture, Lily had spent years marinating in her mother's version of events. And when Robert remarried, Monica saw an opportunity. I learned about Monica's influence slowly, in fragments. A comment Lily made about how her mother had warned her about women like me, women who targeted divorced men for their money. A story she repeated about how Robert had abandoned the family to pursue his own happiness. A casual mention of how Monica had sacrificed everything to raise Lily alone. None of it matched the man I knew. The man who called his daughter every day, who kept her childhood photos on his desk, who cried when he talked about the years he'd lost with her. But I couldn't say any of that. I couldn't defend Robert without attacking Monica, and attacking Monica would only push Lily further away. So I stayed silent. I absorbed the barbs, swallowed the hurt, told myself that eventually Lily would see the truth on her own. I was wrong. The real depth of Monica's manipulation became clear about 3 years into my marriage. Lily had just graduated from law school, a proud moment that Robert celebrated with tears in his eyes. He hosted a dinner at our house, inviting family and friends to honor her achievement. I spent days preparing, cooking her favorite foods, decorating the dining room, wanting desperately to be part of this milestone. Lily arrived late, already annoyed. "Mother couldn't come," she announced as she walked through the door. "She wasn't feeling well. She wanted me to tell you she sends her regrets." Robert nodded, his expression carefully neutral. "I'm sorry to hear that. I hope she feels better soon." She would feel better if she didn't have to hear about these little gatherings all the time. Lily's eyes flicked to me, sharp and accusatory. "It's hard for her, seeing Dad move on like the past didn't matter." I felt the familiar sting of her words but said nothing. This was Lily's night. I wouldn't ruin it. But later, after the guests had left and Lily had gone home, I found Robert sitting alone in the dark living room, his head in his hands. "She blames me," he said quietly. "After everything, she still blames me." "She doesn't know the whole story," I said, sitting beside him. "And she never will. I can't tell her the truth about her mother. It would destroy her." I took his hand, feeling the weight of his pain. "Maybe someday she'll figure it out on her own." He shook his head. "Monica will never let that happen." What Robert meant by that, I didn't fully understand until 2 years later. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was home alone, sorting through old paperwork in Robert's study when I found a folder I'd never seen before. It was tucked behind a stack of tax documents, unlabeled, thick with papers. I shouldn't have opened it, I knew that. But something, intuition, curiosity, fate, made me pull it out and look inside. What I found changed everything. The folder contained emails, dozens of them, printed out and preserved like evidence in a trial. They were between Monica and her lawyer, dating back to the divorce proceedings. And they painted a picture so different from the one Lily believed that I had to read them twice to make sure I understood. Monica had lied. Not just exaggerated, not just spun the truth. She had fabricated entire incidents to gain custody of Lily. There were emails discussing how to document Robert's alleged neglect, events that never happened, witnesses who were coached, medical records that were misinterpreted on purpose. There were messages about hiding financial assets so Robert would receive less in the settlement. There were discussions about how to prepare Lily for testimony, how to make sure she said the right things to the custody evaluator. And worst of all, there were emails about me. Messages sent after Robert and I had started dating, in which Monica outlined a strategy to turn Lily against me. She called me a gold digger, a home wrecker. She instructed Lily to be cold, to be unwelcoming, to make me feel like an outsider in my own marriage. "If she leaves, Robert will be alone again," one email read. "And alone men are easier to control. We can still get what we need from him if we play this right." I sat there in the quiet study, my hands trembling, my heart pounding. All these years, all the hatred, all the cruel comments and cold shoulders. It had all been orchestrated. Lily didn't hate me because of who I was. She hated me because her mother had taught her to. I didn't tell Robert what I found, not right away. I needed time to process, to understand what this meant, to figure out what to do with information that could shatter his daughter's world. Because that was the thing about the truth. It wasn't just damaging to Monica, it was damaging to Lily. Everything she believed about her parents, her childhood, her own memories, all of it was built on lies. How do you tell someone that their entire understanding of their life is wrong? How do you break that kind of news without breaking the person? I didn't know, so I waited. I watched. I carried the weight of that folder in silence, wondering if there would ever be a right time to speak. The right time came 3 years later. But it didn't come the way I expected. It came through Lily herself, through a discovery she made on her own, a truth she stumbled upon without any help from me. And when she finally understood what her mother had done, everything changed. For 3 years, I kept that folder hidden. Not from Robert, I eventually told him what I'd found, one quiet evening when the weight of the secret became too heavy to carry alone. He listened in silence, his face cycling through shock, anger, grief, and finally, a deep, hollow sadness. "I always knew Monica was capable of manipulation," he said when I finished. "But this is something else." "What do we do?" I asked. He was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "Nothing. Nothing. If we tell Lily, we destroy her relationship with her mother. We destroy her understanding of her own childhood. We turn her whole world upside down." He shook his head slowly. "I can't do that to her, even if she hates me, even if she hates you. I can't be the one who breaks her." I understood. I didn't agree, but I understood. so the folder stayed hidden. And life continued. Lily's cold distance, Monica's invisible presence, the quiet ache of a family that would never quite be whole. I told myself it was enough, that I could live with being hated as long as Lily was protected from the truth. But the truth, as I said before, has a way of finding the light. It happened on a Thursday in late October. Lily was 26 by then. She had finished law school, passed the bar, and started working at a small family practice firm in the city. She was engaged to a young man named Daniel, a kind, steady presence who seemed to genuinely love her despite her sharp edges. I learned later that Lily had gone to visit her mother that afternoon. Monica had been having health problems, nothing life-threatening, but enough to require regular attention. Lily had taken to stopping by once a week, bringing groceries, helping with chores. That day, Monica wasn't home when Lily arrived. She had gone to a doctor's appointment, leaving Lily alone in the house with nothing to do but wait. And wait she did, until boredom led her to start tidying up her mother's cluttered home office. That's when she found the box. Lily told me the story later, in pieces, her voice breaking with every new detail. The box was old, tucked in the back of a closet behind stacks of outdated magazines and forgotten photo albums. It was labeled, "Legal, do not discard," in Monica's handwriting. Lily assumed it was old paperwork, tax documents, contracts, the kind of boring administrative clutter everyone accumulates. But when she opened it, she found something else entirely. Letters, emails, court documents, notes in her mother's handwriting outlining strategies and schemes. And recordings. Cassette tapes, old-fashioned, almost quaint, each one labeled with a date and a name. One of them was labeled with her own name. Lily told me she sat on the floor of that closet for almost an hour, reading through the documents, her hands shaking, her heart pounding. She recognized some of the content, memories from the divorce, stories her mother had told her about her father's failures. But the documents told a different story. They showed coaching, manipulation, deliberate, calculated lies. And then she played the tape. The recording was of a conversation between Monica and her lawyer, made during the custody battle. Monica's voice was calm, almost cheerful, as she discussed how to prepare Lily for the custody evaluation. "She's young enough that she'll believe whatever I tell her," Monica said on the tape. "If I say Daddy was mean, she'll remember Daddy being mean. Children's memories are flexible. You just have to shape them early." The lawyer's voice responded, cautious but complicit. "And you're sure she won't remember things differently later? By the time she's old enough to question anything, it'll be too late. The story will be set. She'll have lived with it for so long, it'll feel like the truth." There was a pause. Then Monica laughed. "Besides, Robert will never tell her. He's too soft, too worried about hurting her. He'll carry the guilt forever, and I'll have everything I want." Lily didn't confront her mother that day. She couldn't. She was too shocked, too shattered, too overwhelmed by the magnitude of what she'd discovered. Instead, she put everything back in the box, walked out of the house, and drove. She drove for hours, she told me later. No destination, no plan, just the road and the silence and the terrible weight of understanding that everything she believed was a lie. Her mother had manipulated her, used her, turned her into a weapon against her own father. And she had spent years, hatting the wrong people. She arrived at our house just after midnight. I was already in bed when I heard the doorbell. Robert was out of town for work, so I went downstairs alone, pulling on a robe, my heart racing with the anxiety that always comes with unexpected visitors in the dark. When I opened the door, Lily was standing on the porch. She looked terrible. Her eyes were red and swollen, her mascara streaked down her cheeks, her hair tangled and wild. She was shivering, though the night wasn't particularly cold. "Lily," I said, stunned. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" She stared at me for a long moment, and then, without warning, she started to cry. Not quiet tears, not dignified grief. These were sobs that came from somewhere deep and broken, the kind of crying that shakes your whole body and steals your breath. "I'm sorry," she gasped between sobs. "I'm so sorry, I didn't know. I didn't understand what she was talking about, but I could see that she was falling apart right there on my doorstep, and whatever had happened was too big for her to carry alone. So I did the only thing I could think of. I pulled her inside, guided her to the kitchen, and sat with her on the cold tile floor while she cried herself empty. It took almost an hour for the full story to come out. She told me about the box, the documents, the tape, the horrifying realization that her mother had been lying to her for her entire life. "I hated you," she whispered, her voice raw. "I hated you so much, and you never did anything wrong. You were just there, living your life, loving my dad. And I treated you like a villain because my mother told me to." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to scream, to let out all the pain I'd swallowed over the years. Part of me wanted to say, "I told you so," to finally be vindicated after so much suffering. But looking at her, this broken, devastated young woman who had just discovered that her own mother had used her as a pawn, I couldn't summon any of that. All I felt was compassion. "You didn't know," I said softly. "You were a child, you believed what you were told, that's not your fault." But I should have seen it, I should have questioned it. Dad was always so kind to me, even when I was cruel to him. You were always so patient, even when I treated you like dirt. Why didn't I see it? Because your mother was very good at what she did. I reached out and took her hand. She shaped your reality before you were old enough to shape it yourself. That's not something you can fight when you're a child. And by the time you were old enough, the story was already set. Lily shook her head, fresh tears streaming down her face. "I wasted so many years hatting you, hatting Dad, and she just watched. She watched and she smiled and she let me destroy my relationship with my own father." "Your father loves you," I said firmly. "He always has. Nothing you did changed that, and nothing you did was unforgivable." She looked at me then, really looked at me, for the first time in 8 years. "How can you be so kind to me, after everything I did?" I took a breath, choosing my words carefully. "Because I know what it feels like to be manipulated, to believe something so completely that you can't see any other possibility. And because hatting you was never going to fix anything. It was never going to bring your father peace or give me the relationship I wanted with you." I squeezed her hand. "I always hoped, Lily, even in the worst moments, I always hoped that someday you'd see the truth, and now you have." We sat on that kitchen floor until the sky began to lighten outside the windows. Lily talked and talked and talked. Years of pent-up confusion and anger poured out of her like water from a broken dam. She told me about the stories her mother had fed her since childhood, stories of abandonment, neglect, betrayal. She told me about the guilt she felt for loving her father despite believing he was a monster. She told me about the way Monica would praise her for being cold to me, rewarding her cruelty with approval and affection. "Every time I came home from visiting Dad, she would ask me how it went," Lily said, her voice hollow. "And if I said anything nice about you, she would get this look on her face, hurt, disappointed, like I had betrayed her." "So you learned to say what she wanted to hear," I said quietly. "Yes, and after a while I didn't have to pretend anymore. I actually believed it. I believed you were the enemy. I believed Dad had replaced Mom with someone younger and prettier. I believed that hatting you was the same as loving her." She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "But none of it was real. None of it was ever real." When Robert came home the next day, Lily was still at our house. She had slept in the guest room, or tried to sleep anyway. I don't think either of us got more than an hour or two. But she had showered, borrowed some of my clothes, and was sitting at the kitchen table when Robert walked through the door. He stopped in his tracks when he saw her. "Lily, what are you doing here? Is everything okay?" She stood up slowly, her eyes red but determined. "Dad, I need to talk to you." I excused myself, giving them privacy, but I could hear fragments of their conversation from the next room. Lily's voice breaking as she apologized. Robert's voice, thick with emotion, telling her it was okay. The sound of crying, both of them, I think. When I finally returned to the kitchen, they were holding each other. Robert's arms wrapped around his daughter like he was afraid she might disappear. Lily's face buried in his shoulder, her whole body shaking with sobs. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. The days that followed were delicate. Lily didn't go back to her mother's house. She stayed with us for almost a week, sleeping in the guest room, eating meals at our table, slowly beginning to rebuild the relationships she had spent years destroying. It wasn't easy. 8 years of hostility don't disappear overnight. There were awkward silences, moments of tension, times when old habits surfaced and Lily would catch herself mid-sentence, stopping a cruel comment before it could escape. But she was trying, genuinely trying, and that made all the difference. Robert was cautious at first. He wanted so desperately to believe that this was real, that his daughter had finally come back to him. But he was also afraid of being hurt again, afraid of getting his hopes up only to have them crushed. "Do you think she means it?" he asked me one night, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. "Or is this just a phase, something she'll get over once the shock wears off?" "I don't know," I admitted, "but I think she deserves the chance to prove herself, and so do you." He turned to look at me, his eyes searching my face. "How are you handling all this, after everything she put you through?" I considered the question carefully. "I'm processing," I said finally. "There's a lot to process, but mostly I'm relieved. Relieved that she finally knows the truth. Relieved that she's not the person I thought she was. Relieved that maybe, just maybe, we can be a real family now." Robert reached over and took my hand. "Thank you," he whispered, "for never giving up, for staying even when it was hard, for being the kind of person who could still show her compassion after everything she did." I squeezed his hand. "I stayed because I love you, and I showed her compassion because I knew she was suffering too. She just didn't know it yet." The question of Monica hung over everything like a storm cloud. Lily hadn't spoken to her mother since the day she found the box. She hadn't answered calls, responded to texts, or acknowledged any of Monica's increasingly frantic attempts to reach her. But she knew she couldn't avoid the confrontation forever. "I have to talk to her," Lily said one evening, about a week after her arrival. "I have to look her in the face and ask her why." "Are you sure you're ready for that?" I asked. "No, but I don't think I'll ever be ready, and I can't move forward until I do." Robert and I offered to go with her, but she refused. "This is something I have to do alone," she said. "Between me and her, mother to daughter." Lily went to see Monica on a Saturday afternoon. I don't know exactly what happened in that conversation. Lily told us some of it later in fragments, but there were pieces she kept to herself, moments too painful or too private to share. What I do know is this. Monica denied everything at first. She claimed the documents were fabricated, the tapes were taken out of context, the whole thing was a misunderstanding. But Lily had come prepared. She had brought copies of the emails, printouts of the documents, the actual cassette tape with Monica's voice clearly audible. When confronted with undeniable evidence, Monica's story shifted. She claimed she had done it for Lily's own good, that Robert was a bad father who would have damaged her, that the lies were necessary to protect her. "Protect me," Lily reportedly said, her voice shaking with anger. "You didn't protect me. You weaponized me. You turned me into a tool for your revenge. You stole my relationship with my father. You stole years of my life. And you made me hate someone who never did anything to deserve it." Monica started crying. She begged Lily to understand. She insisted that everything she had done was out of love. But Lily wasn't buying it anymore. "Love doesn't lie," she said. "Love doesn't manipulate. Love doesn't destroy someone's relationship with their parent to serve your own agenda." She walked out without looking back. In the weeks that followed, the truth began to spread. Lily told her fiancé, Daniel, the full story. He was shocked but supportive, standing by her as she navigated the wreckage of her family relationships. She told her closest friends, people who had known her for years, who had heard her complain about her terrible father and his gold-digging wife. Most of them were stunned. A few admitted they had always suspected something was off about Monica's version of events. And gradually, through the organic spread of information that happens in any community, other people began to learn the truth too. Monica's friends, their extended family, the people at her church, her book club, her social circles. The woman who had spent years playing the victim was finally being seen for what she really was, a manipulator who had used her own child as a weapon. I won't pretend I didn't feel some satisfaction watching Monica's carefully constructed world crumble. After years of absorbing Lily's cruelty, knowing it was rooted in Monica's lies, there was a part of me that wanted justice, that wanted Monica to experience even a fraction of the pain she had caused. But the satisfaction was hollow, because the real damage wasn't to Monica, it was to Lily. It was to Robert. It was to all the years we had lost, all the memories we should have made, all the family dinners and holidays and quiet moments that had been stolen by one woman's selfishness. You can't get those years back. No amount of justice can restore what was lost. All you can do is move forward. Moving forward was harder than I expected. Not because of Lily, she was doing everything she could to make amends. She called regularly. She visited often. She included me in conversations, asked for my opinions, treated me with the respect and warmth I had craved for nearly a decade. But healing isn't a straight line, and the scars of 8 years don't fade just because the person who inflicted them finally says sorry. There were moments when I struggled. Moments when Lily would laugh at something Robert said, and I would flash back to all the times she had looked at me with cold contempt. Moments when she would compliment my cooking, and I would remember the years of sitting at the table in silence while she pretended I didn't exist. The memories lived in my body, in my nervous system, in the way I tensed slightly whenever she walked into a room, bracing myself for an attack that no longer came. I didn't tell anyone about these moments, not Robert, not even Sandra, my closest friend. I felt guilty for having them, like I should be over it by now, like I should be grateful that things had changed and stopped dwelling on the past. But the heart doesn't follow logic. It heals on its own schedule, in its own way. About 3 months after Lily's discovery, she asked if we could have lunch together, just the two of us. I agreed, though I felt nervous. We had spent time together as a family, but we'd never been alone, not really. Not since those early days when I was still trying to win her over and she was still building her walls. We met at a small cafe downtown, the kind with mismatched furniture and handwritten menus. Lily was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table, fidgeting with her napkin. "Thank you for coming," she said as I sat down. "Of course." We ordered coffee, made small talk about the weather, her work, a movie she'd seen recently. But I could tell there was something else on her mind, something she was working up the courage to say. Finally, she set down her cup and looked at me directly. "I need to apologize to you properly," she said. "Not just in passing, not just as part of a bigger conversation. I need to look you in the eyes and tell you how sorry I am for what I did." "Lily, you don't have to." "Yes, I do." Her voice was firm. "I spent 8 years treating you like an enemy. I said horrible things to you. I excluded you from family events. I made you feel unwelcome in your own home. And I did it because my mother told me to, but that doesn't excuse it. I was an adult. I could have questioned her. I could have paid attention to who you actually were instead of who she told me you were." Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. "You were always kind to me, Alina, even when I was cruel. Even when I gave you nothing but coldness, you kept trying. You never gave up on me. And I want you to know that I see that now. I see you. And I'm so deeply, profoundly sorry for the pain I caused." I sat in silence for a moment, letting her words settle. "Thank you," I said finally. "That means more than you know. I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I know that trust takes time to rebuild, but I want to try, if you'll let me." I reached across the table and took her hand. "I want to try too." That lunch was a turning point. Not because everything was magically fixed, it wasn't, but because it marked the beginning of a real relationship between us. Not the false politeness of family obligation, but something genuine. Something built on honesty and mutual effort. We started having lunch together every few weeks. At first, the conversations were careful, tentative, but gradually they became more relaxed. We discovered shared interests, a love of mystery novels, a passion for cooking shows, a mutual dislike of early mornings. We talked about her work, her wedding planning, her fears about the future. And slowly, I began to see the woman she was underneath the armor her mother had built around her, intelligent, funny, deeply caring, and desperately hungry for connection. She reminded me, in some ways, of myself at her age, guarded, suspicious, afraid to trust because trust had been weaponized against her. I understood that fear, and I was patient with it. Lily and Daniel got married the following spring. It was a beautiful ceremony, small and intimate, held in a garden not unlike the one where Robert and I had exchanged our vows. The flowers were in full bloom, the weather was perfect, and everywhere I looked, I saw love. But what I remember most is what happened before the ceremony. I was in the bridal suite, helping with last-minute preparations, when Lily pulled me aside. "I have something for you," she said, reaching into her bag and pulling out a small wrapped box. "What's this?" "Open it." I unwrapped the box carefully, revealing a delicate silver bracelet with a small charm shaped like an open book. "I know you're a librarian," Lily said, her voice soft. "And I know that books have always been your thing, but this isn't just about that. It's about stories, about the stories we tell ourselves and the stories we're told, and about how sometimes we have to rewrite the narrative to find the truth." She took the bracelet from me and clasped it around my wrist. "You helped me rewrite my story, Alina. You showed me what grace looks like, even when I didn't deserve it. And I want you to know that you're not just my stepmother anymore. You're family, real family." I couldn't speak. My throat was too tight, my eyes too blurred with tears. So I just pulled her into a hug, a real hug, the kind I had wanted to give her for 8 long years, and held her while we both cried. Monica wasn't at the wedding. Lily had considered inviting her, had agonized over it for weeks, torn between the desire for peace and the need to protect herself from further manipulation. In the end, she decided that her wedding day was not the place for reconciliation. Not yet, maybe not ever. "I don't hate her," Lily told me the night before the ceremony. "I know that probably sounds strange given everything, but she's still my mother. Part of me will always love her. I just can't have her in my life right now, not until she takes real responsibility for what she did." "Has she?" I asked. Lily shook her head. "Every time we talk, she finds a way to make herself the victim. She says I've been brainwashed, that Dad manipulated me, that you poisoned my mind against her." She laughed bitterly. "She still can't see it. She still can't admit that she did anything wrong. Maybe she never will. Maybe not, and if that's the case, then I have to accept that and move on without her." Lily's voice was steady, resolved. "I've already lost too many years to her lies. I'm not losing anymore." The wedding was beautiful. Lily glowed as she walked down the aisle. Daniel cried when he saw her. Robert gave a toast that made everyone laugh and then cry. And I sat in the front row, watching my stepdaughter marry the love of her life, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Belonging. True, complete, unconditional belonging. I was part of this family, not despite the pain we had endured, but because of it. The suffering had forged us into something stronger than we would have been otherwise. And that, I realized, was the unexpected gift of everything we had gone through. The years that followed the wedding were the happiest of my life. Not because everything was perfect, life is never perfect, but because for the first time I felt complete. I had a husband who loved me, a stepdaughter who had become a true daughter, a family that was built not on obligation or pretense, but on hard-won truth and genuine affection. Lily and Daniel settled into married life with the easy rhythm of 2 people who were made for each other. They bought a small house about 20 minutes from ours, close enough for regular visits, but far enough to maintain their independence. And visit they did, Sunday dinners became a tradition, something I had dreamed of for years but never thought possible. Lily would bring dessert. Daniel would bring wine. Robert would grill something on the back patio while I prepared sides in the kitchen. And we would talk, really talk, about work, about dreams, about the small frustrations and quiet joys that make up a life. Sometimes, in the middle of these dinners, I would look around the table and have to remind myself that this was real. That the same woman who had once refused to acknowledge my presence was now laughing at my jokes, asking for my advice, treating me like I mattered. It felt like a miracle, a quiet, ordinary miracle. 2 years after the wedding, Lily told us she was pregnant. She announced it at Sunday dinner, her face glowing with barely contained excitement. Daniel sat beside her, grinning like he couldn't quite believe his luck. "We're having a baby," Lily said, her voice trembling with emotion. "You're going to be grandparents." Robert burst into tears immediately. He stood up, pulled Lily into a hug, and held her for a long time, whispering something I couldn't hear. I stayed seated, my hand pressed against my chest, overwhelmed by feelings I couldn't name. This was everything Robert had wanted. A chance to be the grandfather he'd always dreamed of being. A chance to hold his daughter's child and give them all the love he'd been storing up for decades. But it was also something I hadn't expected to feel so deeply. I was going to be a grandmother. Not by blood, not in the traditional sense, but in every way that mattered, this child would be my grandchild too. The pregnancy brought us even closer. Lily called me regularly with questions about baby preparations. She asked for my opinion on nursery colors, car seats, baby names. She invited me to doctor's appointments when Daniel couldn't make it. And one afternoon, about 6 months into the pregnancy, she said something that stopped me in my tracks. We were at her house, sorting through boxes of baby clothes that friends and family had donated. The nursery was half painted, a soft sage green that Lily had chosen after weeks of deliberation, and the afternoon light was streaming through the windows. "I've been thinking about something," Lily said, folding a tiny onesie. "About what the baby will call you." "What do you mean?" "Well, Dad will obviously be Grandpa, but I was thinking, I want the baby to call you Grandma, not step-grandma, not a leaner, just Grandma." I looked at her stunned. "Are you sure?" "Of course I'm sure." She set down the onesie and met my eyes. "You're as much this baby's grandmother as anyone could be. You've been more of a mother to me in the last few years than my own mother ever was. And I want my child to grow up knowing you, loving you, calling you what you deserve to be called." I couldn't speak. The tears came too fast, spilling down my cheeks before I could stop them. Lily reached over and took my hand. "Thank you," she said softly, "for everything, for never giving up on me, for being patient when I didn't deserve it, for showing me what real love looks like." I squeezed her hand, my heart so full it ached. "Thank you for letting me in." The baby arrived on a cold January morning. A girl, 7 pounds 4 ounces, with a tuft of dark hair and the tiniest fingers I had ever seen. They named her Rosalina. When Lily told me the name, I sobbed. Ugly, uncontrollable sobs that made the nurses look at me with concern. But I couldn't help it. After everything, after years of being invisible, unwanted, hated, this child would carry my name. I would exist in her identity, in her story, in the family history that stretched forward into generations I would never see. It was more than I had ever dared to hope for. Holding Rose for the first time was like touching something sacred. She was so small, so perfect, so completely unaware of the long, painful journey that had led to this moment. I looked down at her sleeping face and thought about all the years of suffering, the cruel comments, the cold shoulders, the nights I had cried myself to sleep, wondering if I would ever be accepted. And I realized that it was all worth it. Every moment of pain had led to this family, to this love, to this tiny person who would grow up knowing me as Grandma, never suspecting that there was a time when her mother and I were strangers. The past didn't disappear. It would always be part of our story, but it was no longer the whole story. Now there was also this: hope, healing, new beginnings. A future written not in bitterness, but in grace. Monica met Rose once. It happened about a year after the baby was born. Monica had been reaching out to Lily again, tentatively, carefully, testing the waters. She claimed she had been doing therapy, working on herself, coming to terms with her past behavior. Lily was skeptical but cautiously open. She agreed to a brief, supervised visit at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown, with Daniel and me waiting in the car in case things went south. The meeting lasted less than an hour. When Lily came back to the car, her face was unreadable. "How did it go?" I asked. "About what I expected." She buckled Rose into her car seat, her movements careful and deliberate. She cried. She apologized. She said she wants to be part of Rose's life. "What did you say?" Lily was quiet for a long moment. "I said I'd think about it, but that trust has to be earned. And that if she ever tries to manipulate my daughter the way she manipulated me, she'll never see either of us again." I nodded. "That sounds fair." "I don't know if she'll ever really change," Lily admitted, starting the car. "Part of me thinks she's just lonely and scared and looking for a way back in. But another part hopes that maybe, someday, she can be different. That she can be the mother I always needed her to be." She glanced at me in the rearview mirror. "But in the meantime, I have you, and that's more than enough." Monica did not become a regular presence in our lives. She saw Rose a handful of times over the following years, always supervised, always brief, always on Lily's terms. Their relationship remained strained but functional, a careful détente between two people who would never fully understand each other. But that was okay, because Lily had found her real family, the one built on truth and trust and unconditional love, the one that had weathered storms and emerged stronger on the other side. And I was part of that family. I'm 63 years old now. Rose is 5, with her mother's dark hair and her father's easy laugh. She calls me Grandma Aliner, though sometimes she shortens it to just Gamma in that way little children do, imprecise and adorable and absolutely perfect. She doesn't know the story of how her mother and I became family. She's too young for that. But someday, when she's older, I'll tell her. I'll tell her about the years of silence, the walls that stood between us, the painful journey toward truth and reconciliation. I'll tell her because stories matter. Because understanding where we come from helps us understand who we are. And because I want her to know that love isn't always easy, but it's always worth fighting for. Robert retired last year. We spend our days the way I always dreamed we would, reading books on the porch, tending the garden I finally planted, taking long walks through the neighborhood where we've lived for almost 15 years. Sometimes Lily brings Rose over, and we spend entire afternoons doing nothing but playing pretend, building block towers, reading picture books until our voices go hoarse. These are the moments I treasure most. Not the grand gestures or the dramatic revelations, but the quiet, ordinary magic of a family finally at peace. I think often about the woman I was when this story began. The woman who fell in love with a man and inherited a daughter who hated her. The woman who absorbed cruelty with silence. Who carried secrets to protect people who didn't even know they needed protecting. She was strong in ways she didn't recognize, patient in ways that cost her dearly, and hopeful in ways that sometimes felt like foolishness. But she wasn't foolish. Hope is never foolish. Hope is what carried me through 8 years of rejection. Hope is what kept me sitting at that table, showing up for family dinners, refusing to give up on a girl who wanted nothing to do with me. And hope is what made it possible for everything to change. People sometimes ask me how I did it. How I endured years of being treated like an outsider in my own home without becoming bitter, without fighting back, without demanding that Robert choose between me and his daughter. The answer is complicated. Part of it was love. I loved Robert deeply, and I knew that forcing him to choose would only tear him apart. He had already lost so much to the divorce time with Lily, the marriage he had believed in, his own sense of himself as a good husband and father. I couldn't add to that burden. Part of it was understanding. I knew from the beginning that Lily's hatred wasn't really about me. It was about the lies she had been fed, the manipulation she had endured, the impossible position her mother had put her in. She was a victim, even if she didn't know it. And part of it was faith. Not religious faith exactly, but faith in the truth. Faith that eventually the lies would crumble, that Lily would see her mother for who she really was, that the wall between us would come down. I didn't know when it would happen. I didn't know how, but I believed with everything in me that it would. And it did. I don't claim to have all the answers. Every family is different. Every situation has its own complications, its own wounds, its own path toward healing. What worked for me might not work for someone else. But I do believe this. Hate is heavy, and eventually the people who carry it get tired. Lily got tired. Tired of the anger, the suspicion, the constant vigilance against an enemy that didn't actually exist. And when she finally set that burden down, she found something she hadn't expected. She found me. Not the villain her mother had described. Not the gold digger or the home wrecker or the threat to her family. Just me, Elena, a woman who loved her father, a woman who had wanted more than anything to love her too. Monica is still alive, as far as I know. She and Lily maintain a distant relationship, occasional phone calls, rare visits, the polite formalities of a connection that will never fully heal. Lily has made peace with that. She's accepted that her mother is who she is, that some people never change, that you can love someone and still recognize that they're not safe to have in your life. It's a hard lesson, one that takes most people years to learn. But Lily learned it, and in doing so, she broke the cycle. Rose will not grow up hearing lies about her family. She will not be weaponized against the people who love her. She will not spend years hating someone because another person taught her to. She will grow up in truth, in love, in the kind of family that Monica tried to destroy but couldn't. Because truth is stronger than lies. And love, real love, patient love, the kind that endures through pain and rejection and years of silence, is stronger than hate. Last Sunday, we had our usual family dinner. Lily and Daniel brought Rose, who spent most of the meal telling us an elaborate story about her imaginary friend, a purple dragon named Sparkles who lives in the backyard and only eats strawberries. Robert listened with the serious expression of a man taking very important testimony. I asked follow-up questions about Sparkle's preferred sleeping arrangements. Daniel tried unsuccessfully to steer the conversation toward vegetables. And Lily sat across from me, watching her daughter with an expression of pure joy. At one point, our eyes met across the table, and she smiled, a real smile, warm and unguarded. "I love you," she mouthed. "I love you too," I mouthed back. And in that moment, I felt it again. That sense of completeness, of belonging, of finally, after all the years of waiting and hopping and hurting, being exactly where I was meant to be. The road to get here was long. It was painful. There were times when I wanted to give up, to walk away, to accept that some relationships can't be fixed. But I didn't. And because I didn't, I got to have this. This family, this love, this life I never could have imagined when I was standing in that bookstore, reaching for a novel I couldn't quite grasp. Robert's hand appeared above mine that day, pulling down the book, changing my life forever. And Lily's hand appeared on that kitchen floor, reaching for mine, changing it again. We reach for each other. That's what families do, even when it's hard, even when we're hurt, even when we don't know if the other person will reach back. We reach anyway. Because that's how love works. I'm sitting on my porch as I tell you this story. The sun is setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink that remind me of the roses in my garden. The roses I planted the year Lily finally called me Mom for the first time. She didn't mean to say it. It slipped out, casual and natural, in the middle of a conversation about nothing important. But we both froze. Both felt the weight of that single word. She didn't take it back. And I didn't pretend I hadn't heard it. Some moments don't need to be analyzed or discussed. They just need to be felt. If you're listening to this story, maybe something in it sounds familiar. Maybe you're a step-parent struggling to connect with a child who sees you as the enemy. Maybe you're caught in the crossfire of someone else's manipulation, blamed for things you didn't do, hated for reasons you don't understand. Or maybe you're on the other side. Maybe you're the child who has been fed lies about a parent or step-parent. Maybe you're carrying anger that was placed in your hands before you were old enough to question it. Wherever you are in this story, I want you to know something. The truth matters. Not as a weapon, not as a way to destroy someone or prove them wrong, but as a foundation, as the only solid ground on which real relationships can be built. Lies create walls, truth tears them down. And sometimes, the truth takes years to surface. Sometimes it hides in boxes in the backs of closets, waiting for the right moment to emerge. Sometimes it comes too late to fix everything. But it always matters. I don't know what your situation is. I don't know if the people who hurt you will ever change, if the relationships you've lost can ever be rebuilt, if the pain you're carrying will ever fully heal. But I do know this. Holding on to hatred is exhausting. Carrying someone else's lies is a burden you don't have to bear. And hope, stubborn, foolish, persistent hope, is the most powerful thing we have. I hoped for 8 years. 8 years of silence and cruelty and feeling invisible in my own home. And then, one night, my stepdaughter showed up on my doorstep, crying so hard she couldn't breathe. And everything changed. So let me ask you something. If you discovered that someone you loved had been manipulated into hating you, that the cruelty you'd endured was never really about you at all, would you be able to forgive them? Would you be able to open your arms and let them in, despite all the pain they'd caused? Or would the wounds be too deep, the scars too permanent, the trust too broken to repair? There's no right answer. Every heart is different. Every story has its own complications. But I hope, whatever you decide, that you give yourself permission to heal. That you don't carry bitterness forever just because someone else put it in your hands. That you leave room, even a small room, for the possibility of change. Because people can change. Relationships can heal. Families can be rebuilt from the ashes of what was broken. I'm living proof of that. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for walking this long road with me, through the pain and the silence and the slow, beautiful process of becoming a real family. If this story touched you, if it made you think about your own relationships, your own wounds, your own capacity for forgiveness, I'd love to hear about it. Leave a comment below. Share your thoughts. Tell me what you would have done. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel. There are more stories to tell, stories of love and loss, of betrayal and redemption, of ordinary people finding their way through extraordinary circumstances. Until next time, hold your loved ones close, choose truth over lies, and never ever give up on the people who matter. Even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Because that's how love works. Thank you for listening.